Okay, this video is going to be a quick, direct upload onto YouTube. Someone asked for top 5 favorite, quote-unquote, coolest guys I've met. Kind of hard, not going to lie, but I was able to narrow the list down to 5. So, get right into it. Number 5 was Booker T. Now, this one, it was really a tie, to be quite honest, between Booker T and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Who I met in 2010 at Toronto Comic Con. But I picked Booker T for the simple fact that although Hacksaw was very, very friendly to me, he kind of, how I look at it, how a wrestler kind of interacts with you is just one way of telling how cool they really are. And I guess that it kind of reflects on their attitude as well. Hacksaw pretty much just answered whatever I was asking him, but he did it in a very friendly manner. Where Booker T, when I asked him something, the guy went, he went on a tangent about it. So I thought that was very cool of him. He kind of took the time to talk to me and not just, I asked Duggan, I'm like, oh, so when do you think you're going to go in the Hall of Fame? He's like, oh, maybe in a couple of years. I think I'm a little bit too young for that. Now, he said that, literally he said that, but in a very nice way. So I kind of took that in a way, it was cool, but when I asked Booker T about Abraham Washington and how Vince kind of yells in the commentator's ear, he kind of went off on his own little thing where, it's this and that, and since he's on SmackDown, it doesn't mean he can mess up and it'll just get edited out. And then I started asking him about, there's one more thing, CM Punk and Chris Brown, about their Twitter thing and how wrestlers have their freedom and if WWE tells them what to tweet. And he was very open and told him that, yeah, they kind of tell us what to tweet and what not to tweet, but for the most part, they can do what they want. So there's a little story on Booker T. Next, number 4 was X-Pac. I met him last year at the same event I met Hulk Hogan at. Now with X-Pac, he just had a match with El Generico at the King of Trios at the time. I guess, yeah, so 2011. And first we were in line where we were meeting Hogan, and he was smoking, and then he just, I started shooting the shit with him about, stuff in WCW and then stuff in DX, and he just answered everything. He started laughing, he was making jokes, and then I told him about the King of Trios and how it's really cool how he still can go for his age, and how, it's really cool to see him in the ring, and he's like, oh, thanks, brother, this and that, and he started saying, I really appreciate everyone coming over and meeting me. It really makes me feel good, and you guys are the reason I'm here. And then when I asked him to sign it, he said, should I sign it 1, 2, 3 Kid or X-Pac? And I said, sign it 1, 2, 3 Kid. He's like, black or silver? You can do whatever you want. And he's like, oh, I'll do it silver, and I'll do it down here so, you can see my pretty face. I said, sure, whatever you want. But a really cool guy. I've been watching him my whole life, and when I was talking to him, it seemed like, he was just like another one of my good friends. That's how we kind of interacted, and it was really cool like that. And when I think about it now, that's what I think. At the time, it was just, I was like, holy shit, I'm talking to X-Pac. But now when I look back, it's like we really had a good conversation, but I totally forgot that he was a superstar at the time. And number 3, this is where Roddy Piper would fall into. I just took that figure down so you guys can have a better look at it. He's got one of 1800 with the IC title, black shirt, and the kilt looks like it's made from plastic, not like the cloth material like some of the classic superstars are. So if you want to watch that story, you can watch the video yesterday. And then number 2 is Ric Flair. I met him, July 2009 at ROH. It was my second ROH show, and it was kind of the only reason I went to ROH. First night was to meet Bret Hart, second night was to meet Ric Flair. And what had happened was Bret Hart was in Toronto, and he did an interview. And, what happened? Bret Hart was signing, Ric Flair did an interview, and he was talking shit about Bret. That's what happened. And I remember reading it on the dirt sheets, and I had no idea. So I just read the dirt sheets. I'm like, oh, maybe I should ask Flair about this. So I went up to him, shook his hand, whatever. I'm like, I listened to the interview you said yesterday. You have a good point about Bret, and I just left it like that. I didn't say anything. Oh, I'm glad someone here agrees with me, and then he started going off for literally 5 minutes, and Legend Killer 410 was standing right behind me, And I was in shock, and he was in shock that the fact that me and Ric Flair are having a buddy-to-buddy conversation about Bret Hart, who I was marking out meeting the day before. I couldn't even remember what he said, but something along the lines like he thinks he's this, but he's not. He wasn't that good. But I was just in awe, and I still, like, to this day, I think Ric Flair was, like, by far, like, I marked out so much when I met Ric Flair. Just the fact that he was talking to me, I was going nuts. And that still stands with me to this day. And then number 1, coolest guy I've met is Edge. If anyone's met him, I'm sure they will agree with me 100% that he is very cool. He will talk to you, and he will, interact. And when I met him just this past July, no, was it May? Yeah, it was in May. It's past May. We were waiting in line, shook his hand. First Jade actually shook his hand, and then he looked at, it was this exact figure, and he was looking at it. It was like, oh, who's this, handsome devil? And then I guess it was the first time he'd seen it. I started mentioning you had hair back then, and he's like, oh, trust me, I like this a lot better. And I said, oh, at least you're not balding. And then he's like, oh, I'm not balding, I know that. And I'm like, no, I didn't say you were balding. I said, at least you're not balding. And I told him that I was balding, and he's like, oh, trust me, you haven't had as much stress that I have in my career. And then I asked him about the Rated R belt. He was very open about it, said he didn't like the idea, and his belt was a lot better that he created. And yeah, that was it. Edge, number 1. And that's all. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow.